Hey everybody, it's Alexis Alexander and we are back for another week and we've got another special guest. Welcome back. As per usual, we're going to have your real deal questions, your real deal dilemmas, and we're talking to a very special guest. Today, guys, we have got Quincy Medwynter du Vallon Lohan. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
It right. Quincy is a transformational life coach, singer, Vogue featured writer, wife. She doesn't feel very comfortable with that title. We'll talk a little bit about that. Mama and human trying her best to navigate the grey area of life. Quincy, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good, and well done for getting my name right.
I was going to say, you're laughing at the fact that I was...
Yeah, and I'm just also like a little bit gassed. I feel like I'm on Desert Island Discs or something.
Listen, I'm trying to bring it...
You should be the next host of Desert Island Discs.
Thank you so much. Don't know what that is, but...
wow.
What is Desert Island Discs?
Oh my God, Desert Island Discs is... I'm just wondering, what does this say about me that I know what Desert Island Discs is? Desert Island Discs is, I think it's on BBC Radio 4 or something, and it's basically where they interview people and they interview them about their life, and then it's all kind of punctuated with songs that mean something to them. And basically you can just rest assured that if someone's on Desert Island Discs, like, they are well respected in their field. It's not just celebrities, it's people, it's like amazing psychotherapists and scientists, and it's very good. I really like it.
Show? Like, can I
BBC Sounds, Desert Island Discs.
BBC Sounds.
It's like I work for them.
I mean, clearly.
Hit me up, Desert Island Discs.
I was going to say. However, if you need a new host, I'm the one.
I'm telling you, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming today to the Real Deal Show. Let's start off with our Real Deal question. If you and see, it's interesting the question that I chose. I didn't know this in advance.
Okay.
If you could use a song to describe how you're feeling today,
come on now.
What song would it be and why?
To describe how I'm feeling today.
What kind of mood are you in?
Oh, and do you know what? I am so guilty of, so like, I love a playlist, and my husband often gets quite kind of a little bit aggy with me. Like, if there was this one time we were driving, I can't drive, he was driving, and we would like, there was diversions. We found ourselves driving through a field that it was getting dark, and I put on like the cinematic playlist, and it was dramatic because I'm definitely guilty of like, music really kind of determines my mood, and he was just like, can you like chill out with the cinematic music? This is a stressful situation. So that's a good question for me.
Good question, yes. You were giving full pathetic fallacy.
I was, yeah. It was drama. It was building, and then there's a crescendo, and he's just like, I'm just trying to like figure out how to get to Broadstairs. Do you know what I mean? So on the way here, I was actually listening to a song by Goldie.
Okay.
Called Mother.
Okay.
Which is I think it's like an hour long. This one song is an hour long.
All right.
And I had been listening to him on a podcast, and he was talking about what that song means to him and how that song wasn't for the masses. It was for him.
Okay.
And I'm like, really like here for authenticity. So I wanted to listen to it. I wanted to give it the time of day, because ultimately no one cares. It doesn't matter what I think, right? That was like an exploration for him, and it's art, and I wanted to listen to it. And around about 23 minutes, like kind of a bit of a drum and bass beat starts kicking in, and it's just a vibe, and I really loved it. And so I would say that Mother by Goldie, yeah, that's the song I would choose for today.
Nice. All right. Thank you very much. And thinking about the fact that we talked about titles. So I know when I introduced you to the show, I kind of said, mama, human, trying to navigate your way through life. Wife, not too sure about the title. Tell us a bit about that. As in, why are you not too sure about that title?
I don't know. Just like, I don't really know what that means to be a wife. Okay. I know what certain corners of society like to make us think it means to be a wife, whether that's, the housewife, I don't know. I think I'm not really big on labels. It's not something I think about often. It's all like a subconscious thing. But as I say it now, I just think just being given yet another label, it's like, I'm still trying to figure out the labels that I was given at birth in terms of my name and do you know what I mean? And my narrative and my story and what that means for how I exist in the world today. So the thought of kind of having to then throw this like wife aspect into it for me is just like, no, I'm not really, you know, I didn't marry my husband because I wanted to be a wife or even his wife. I married him because I really love him and because I want to be with him and because it felt like natural progression to like, yeah, let's get married. Let's celebrate our love. Like, let's have a ring. Let's go for it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I really loved referring to him as my boyfriend. And sometimes like I'm in a
Even
school.
now.
Yeah.
Love
I love it. And because he's 12 years older than me. So I just think it's jokes, like referring to him as my boyfriend when he's like a big man. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It just makes me laugh. No one else is laughing.
No one else is laughing.
It's all about making myself laugh.
It tickles me, that's fine.
And I introduced us because my kids are in primary school, I introduced us on a new WhatsApp group for school. And I was like, you know, I'm Quincy, like mum of, you know, these 2 children, and my baby father's called Marcus. And I was just like,
always pushing the
like, you know, because I want to know who understands that terminology in this group, because I'm probably going to gravitate towards you.
Who's gonna laugh and who's gonna be like, ooh,
yeah,
controversial,
totally,
yeah, makes sense. All right, so I'm gonna read out a couple of quotes to you. I want you to tell me if you recognize them. So I often hear people say, "You can't beat London in the sun." I disagree. You absolutely can beat it, but it was pleasant enough. Does starting a blog make me vain? Question mark. Do you recognize any of those?
Yeah, they're both me.
They're both you. Yes, indeed, they are.
They're not exactly like changing the world, those quotes, but that's fine.
I mean, you know what? The reason I chose them was because I feel like people make these generalized statements of like, oh, you really can't beat London nightlife. Oh, you really can't beat, you know, a Hyde Park. Yes, you can. Like, you really can beat. Yes, there's nice things about them, but I think, maybe, I don't know, because I've grown up in London, I'm not in love with London like maybe some other people are, or even other Londoners might be.
Yeah.
And what I love about you online and in person is what you're talking about, this kind of real authenticity, this like, I'm just going to give you the real. I'm not going to pretend that this is a great time. Actually, this is a really shit time. Or I'm not gonna lie and make things seem all glittery when actually it's really painful and stressful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the blog at Quincerella completely shows us this, going since 2015. Tell us about the kind of blogging journey so far, your relationship with writing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I have always written, like I kept diaries when I was younger. I used to write poems when I was younger. I had a really, really terrible English teacher. She was such a, can I swear?
Yes, you can.
She was a fucking dick. She was such a dick. And I was not well behaved in her class, but you can't expect, my dad always said to me, like, you have to earn respect. And even, you know, an adult has to earn respect from a child. Like, it's not like, oh, just because you're a child, you have to respect me because I'm an adult. That's not going to run with me. And so I was not well behaved in her class, but maybe I would have been if she wasn't such a jackass. So I think it's interesting that I have continued to have this love for writing and language, I guess, when actually it was not something that was nurtured from an educational point of view. But I started the blog in 2015 and I don't even remember why. Maybe I had just fallen pregnant with my daughter and that spurred it. But now, I mean, I'm not consistent. Like, I'm not consistent with writing. I just write when the moment takes me, which I love because I'm never under any pressure to write. I wrote something on the way here today. I was listening to Mother by Goldie and I just got my phone out and I was on the tube and it just came to me. And it's, I guess, a way of expressing myself.
Okay.
I think that maybe there is an element, I'm in therapy. I love how I put my hand up, like I have to,
Like, hi, my
I'm
name is
Quincy, I'm in therapy. And I'm like very open about it. I don't really see why you wouldn't be, right? But I get that for some people it's a scary thing. But yeah, I'm fully all up in therapy. I love therapy. It's important work for myself. I'm curious about myself, you know? And through therapy, I've come to realize that maybe part of my writing is also about validation.
Okay.
You know, I'm looking for certain things. I'm looking for validation in terms of my story, things I've been through, and what that means for the person I am today, you know? And that's something that I'm leaning into. I don't feel the need to shy away from that. I feel, again, like it's authentic to me. I've always been a sharer. Like before Instagram, you know, I was always the one that had my little camera. I was always the one taking little videos, doing little skits, you know, with my ex-boyfriend. Like, you know, we were all over it before it was even a thing.
Yeah.
So writing is just kind of an extension of that, I guess.
Yeah. And I think in relation to the validation side of things, I think a lot of people talk about worrying about writing because it's like, who's going to read it? Who's going to want to listen? Who's going to want to, you know, share it? How do you, I guess, get over those thoughts? But also as well, actually, that's very rude. Do those thoughts even come into your head? Because there's me, that's some projection.
I love it.
So do those thoughts come into your head? And if they do come into your head, how do you get rid of them, kind of thing? Or how do you work through them?
Yeah.
Necessarily get rid of them.
Yeah, so when I mean, you read that quote, like, does starting a blog make me vain? So obviously back in 2015, 25-year-old me was like, oh, you know, am I vain for writing about myself? Well, that quickly just dissipated and I just, you know, didn't give it a second thought. And in terms of like, who's going to read my blog and stuff, I'm not bothered, to be honest, because I'm not, you know, in the same way that Goldie didn't make that track Mother for the masses.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't, it was all about an expression. And I'm not saying that I am the female Goldie, although how sick would that be?
I mean,
but I'm really not.
Listen, claim it.
I mean, I'm not. I'm really not. But that's the same with my writing. Like, first and foremost, I write for myself. It is like a form of therapy. And then I send it to people on WhatsApp. And do you know what I love about writing? Is that, so when I wrote my piece in Vogue, which you touched on in the intro, there were things in there that people no doubt would have found very uncomfortable to read. It was a raw piece of writing. The majority of my writing on my blog it's like, it's lighthearted. I like to think it's funny. There are elements of emotion as well, but this Vogue piece was just pure like sucker punch emotion. And what I loved about writing that piece was I wasn't having to deal with other people's reaction to it. And that's what I love about writing.
So it was just out there. It was in the world. It was, see it there?
Yeah.
Followed by you, but at least you being able to give what you wanted to give. And it is what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not having to say to someone, yeah, when I was pregnant with my third baby, I was so ill that I was waking up praying that there was going to be blood in the bed, that I had miscarried. I'm not having to then deal with how that makes you feel. You know, I'm able just to say that, and whatever that makes you feel is your, you know, your journey. And I find that really freeing. It gives me freedom, you know?
I think speaking, you know, it feels like we're already in that direction. So I think let's definitely go there. I think thinking about that piece, in October 2021, out of 5,000 women with the condition, 4.9% terminated a wanted pregnancy, 52.1% considered termination, and 25.5% even thought about taking their own life. I think it's you know, important to touch on kind of the gravity of the condition and what it can lead to. So in terms of that, I'm very aware that I can feel my own anxiety in actually talking about it and pronouncing the name.
Okay, so let me just take control.
You to just take control, take the wheel. Here, I can feel it. So I was like, you know what, Quincy, just take the wheel in it.
I mean, I'm now like, am I going to pronounce it correctly? But whatever. So I have a condition, or I have had a condition called hyperemesis gravidarum.
Hyperemesis
gravidarum.
I think it's very
They call it HG for short.
Okay.
It's kind of fondly known as the condition Kate Middleton has or had, because when she was pregnant, she was very sick as well. And essentially, what does that mean for me? It just means that I'm very, very ill when I'm pregnant.
Right.
For me, I'm only ill for the first kind of 12 weeks. I'll be throwing up throughout my pregnancy, but like nothing compared to how I feel for those first kind of 12 weeks.
I just want to pause very, very quickly. I think there's an interesting connection there. So as you said, kind of, fondly known as, I think that even in itself is wild in terms of, because I know we're probably going to get onto it, but I know there's a sense of, well, Kate Middleton, she's rich, she's this, she's that. But actually it's still a condition. It's still being ill.
Oh, yeah.
And even as you were just saying, just the first 12 weeks.
I mean, yeah.
12 weeks is a minute.
Mate,
like,
it's mad.
12 weeks is not like a little 12
It's
hours.
mad.
And even 12 hours, I can imagine being unwell for 12 hours
Yeah.
would be a mad thing. But 12 weeks, 3 months,
It's
the
mad.
first 3 months of your pregnancy, you're unwell.
Yeah.
What are some of the symptoms that you specifically, I guess?
Yeah, I was going to say, so like, again, this is me and my journey with it. I'm just bedbound. I just get so sick. So it's the best way to describe it is, have you ever had food poisoning or have you ever had alcohol poisoning?
Yes.
Where like the smell of anything, even the sight of things, you're done. And all you can do is just close your eyes and wish it away.
Yeah.
It's like that for about 12 weeks.
That is wild.
24/7. There's no escape. The only escape is being asleep. I
can imagine sleep is hard as well.
It's mad because you're so tired,
Right.
you're so drained, but it is difficult. It is difficult. I have this other thing which I think is part of HG, where, just before you're about to be sick, your mouth fills up with saliva. Everyone's had that, right? Like just before you're literally about to the nausea, your mouth might fill up with saliva. That is like, again, 24/7. Like I literally have to have like a bucket next to the bed that I'm constantly and it's really dire. And, my 2 children who I was ill with both of them. Somehow I got through it. I'm not sure how. And I wanted a third baby. We were actively trying for a third baby. I got pregnant with our third baby last year, October. And, I was just so ill and I couldn't do it. I could not do it. So I ended up having a termination. And I think that's, for me, the key takeaway. Like, have whatever opinions you want to have. I get like it's hard for people to understand what it's like to be that ill. I also understand, there are people in my life who would do anything to get pregnant, would do anything to have a baby. And they're like, clock is ticking, I'm not getting any younger. Some of them are single, some of them are married. To have to turn around to those people and be like, I'm pregnant, because I was so happy. And then a few weeks later be like, I had a termination. That was a difficult decision for me to make, and that's just one reason why it was difficult. But I genuinely feel that I was left with no choice. Yeah. I had no choice. There was no let's say that I lived in a country where you are not allowed to have an termination, an abortion. I can categorically say I would have tried to do it myself. Because there is no, if you lived in a country where you couldn't have an abortion, then you just have to get on with it. Yeah. There was no getting on with it. There was no getting on with it.
And this is why we see those statistics in terms of considering terminations or actually terminated, and also thinking about ending life.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is this is literally 12 weeks on and on and on of dire pain. And not seeing any way.
You're not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel.
Not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And actually, I think there really is this sense of, I haven't had any children yet, but from women that I know that have had children, there is this sense almost of like pregnancy just kind of should be a struggle. Kind of like, well, you're creating life, just kind of get on with it. And actually, we've got to think about the person who is bearing the child. Actually, this
first and foremost.
Exactly. And
first and foremost.
We know all the stuff going on in the States in terms of changing laws and stuff like that. And all of this, the rights of the child, but actually the rights of the person bearing the baby need to be taken into consideration. And actually, if this is going to be 12 weeks, however many months of pure absolute pain, you've got to think about quality of life as well for the parent.
And also the knock-on effect, right?
Yes.
So
because you've got 2 other children as well. So
and I was gone. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm gone. And it's like, oh my God, how did you look after your kids when you were like, it was like, sorry, no, I don't think you understand. I couldn't look after them.
I couldn't, yeah.
So there was no like, oh, I'll just have to get through it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we were going to cancel our wedding. You know, there was no like, oh, you know, we'll just quickly get married and have a small thing. Like, I couldn't get out of bed. If someone had walked into my room and tried to attack me, I would have just lay there.
Yeah.
Like, there was no digging deep. It's just not a thing for me. It's not a thing I was able to do.
Do you think there's enough support out there for those who can bear children in relation to this condition? Like, is there enough information? Is there enough support? I guess that you're aware of.
I mean, there's never enough support, first of all. There is an amazing charity called the Pregnancy Support Charity, I think they're called. And they're trying to do good work, but, you know, they're a charity.
Yeah.
And they're small.
Yeah.
I also think that, like you said, there is this thing that kind of says, well, pregnancy's not easy. Oh, morning sickness. Even having morning sickness is shit. You know, like, this isn't about like one is worse than the other. Like, it's all pretty shit. If you feeling sick is shit. It's not great. And, you know, we're just expected to get on with it.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think there's enough support. I think the thing that gets me, and when I wrote my piece for Vogue, I was so angry, and I always get my dad. I always send my writing to my dad first, and he kind of checks it for me. And he was like, Quincy, I don't think you should keep that bit in about the doctor, because you can strip some of it away, and you'll still get your point across. But to be honest, when I read this bit about the doctor specifically, I felt uncomfortable. And I had basically said something along the lines of like, because essentially the doctor had said to me, I will check in with you. I had asked for a specific drug that I had heard helps with HG. And she was like, look, that's not a frontline drug. It's not one of the drugs that we use straight away. I'm going to prescribe you this other anti-sickness drug, and I'm going to check in with you in like 4 days. And if this drug hasn't helped, then we will try this other drug that I had asked for. Anyway, 4 days came, and she didn't get in touch with me. And that was like light at the end of the tunnel. And by that point I had declined.
Yeah.
So then she calls me on like the 6th day, private number. I'm like, hello, just got back from picking the kids up from school. I'd already had the abortion. Sitting on the stairs, I'm like, hello. She's like, oh, hi. I just wanted to check in, like, how are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm fine because I had an abortion. And when I said that, I felt like is it too graphic to say? I felt like I literally like had a gun to her head and pulled the trigger. Like, I wanted to shock her. And I kind of took pleasure in saying to her, oh, I'm fine because I've had an abortion. Because for me, she had failed me. The system had failed me, you know? And I am someone who is eloquent. I'm someone who I'm someone who speaks English. I'm someone who was able to say exactly what it is I need. And yet this doctor did not call me when she said she was going to call me. So what does that mean for all these other people who are not as privileged as I am?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's the advocacy part of it, like you say.
Yeah.
Like the ability for you to even go and say, can I have this?
Yeah.
And to then be told, well, no, we can't give you this, but maybe in 4 days' time, maybe we will give you this. And then to not get that follow-up. And I'm sure there are lots of people watching this, listening to this, screaming, but it's the NHS, they don't have time, they're understaffed, they're underpaid. You know, I'm sure there's that part of the argument, but as we know, there's 2 sides to every coin in a way. There's this sense of
both things can coexist and
be true at the same time. And that's exactly what this is. I'm sure there's many reasons that doctor did not call you back, but equally that not calling back had a knock-on effect on what happened.
And you know what?
You have to be aware of that.
For me, it is an example of when women say, you know, especially around pregnancy, I think, I'm in pain, which I wasn't, but I feel sick. And also I know my body. This is how I feel today. I know that tomorrow I'm going to be worse and the next day I'm going to be worse. I know the trajectory of where I'm going. I don't think we're not heard. We are not heard, because when I said to her, why didn't you call me when you said you were going to call me? She said, oh, I was off on that day. And I said, well, why didn't someone else call me? And she said, because it was down as a closed case. There was no, and it's like, so I came off that phone call, that initial phone call, thinking this is still very much open for discussion.
Yep.
There's going to be a follow-up. She came off of that phone call, shutting it down.
Yeah. Because she'd already made her decision.
And that, I'm not, the weight of my decision doesn't, lie on her. I'm not blaming her.
Yeah.
But, she then was like, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I was like, I'm now having to accept the fact that at 31 years old, I was 31 at the time, I will not have any more children. I will not try again. This is it for me. So now there's this other level of stuff as well. And she was like, I'm really sorry. And she said, is there anything we can do? And I said, listen, I'm not going to now ask the NHS to support me through getting me therapy. It's okay. I'll sort myself out. Yeah. But it's like, you could just be putting yourself under even more pressure with regards to my mental health now, because you didn't follow up, because you didn't do a simple thing.
Yeah. So I think there's also, it is really important to remember that, from a black, I hate the term BAME.
Me too.
That's what the research.
Another box
from a black Asian and minority ethnic group. Black women still 4 times more likely to die in pregnancy. Yeah. According to new data, the findings show a slight drop in the maternal mortality rate for women, but remain the same for mixed ethnicity women and Asian women. 2 times higher and almost twice as high risk of having some kind of difficulties within childbirth, usually due to the fact that there's not a belief in terms of pain.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research in relation to not being listened to. Oh, it's okay. Maybe go away, try something else, come back to next week and we'll see, that kind of thing. And just, as you say, not being listened to. If I'm not being heard, and like you said, English is my first language, I am eloquent, I am educated,
I am able to, light-skinned.
Exactly. I am also able to advocate for myself in these different ways. Yeah. Imagine if we take all of those things away. Imagine how many women are suffering.
It's mad.
Because of not being able to access the care that they need.
Yeah, it's mad.
So how did the experience lead to the Vogue article?
So true to form, I had the termination, and then that night my husband conked out, and I just got my phone out and started writing. Again, a form of therapy. It just poured out of me, and I sent it to a friend who had also been very sick throughout her pregnancy, and she was like, people need to read this. It's important that people read this. And she was like, I know the features editor for Vogue. Do you mind if I send it to her?
I just happened to know the features editor for Vogue. So
seriously,
just wondered if I could. Do
you mind if I send it to her?
Just a little share doc.
Of course I don't mind.
Yeah.
So she sent it to her, and my friend did caveat it with look, she isn't going to entertain just anything. So don't get your hopes up. Just because I know her, that really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it just means that I can.
It just means I can get it in front of her, but that still doesn't mean anything, you know.
Yep.
And she reached out and was like, I was really moved by your piece, and we'd like to feature it. And I had just come out of a yoga class, and I called my best friend, and I just burst into tears. And I was just like, validation. That's what I mean about validation. It was like, not only does this person think that my writing is good, I was also able to move her, and just the thought of people reading it and it having a butterfly effect, I got the most amazing voice note from my husband's friend, and he was just like, I don't even know what to say, but I have to say something. And he just said, thank you, because you've kind of educated me on something that I didn't know about, and how could I ever know about it? How could I ever understand it? And I was just felt really kind of, again, privileged that I was able to do that,
Yeah.
So yeah, then Vogue published it. And
that is that.
The rest is history.
The rest
Can I say
is
that?
history.
Can I
Definitely,
say that?
yes, you can. And we'll make sure that we put the link as well in the caption so people can click on it, people can read it and find out more about it, because I think it is a really important piece of information. Like you said, I think there's a sense of people may be knowing about it just in terms of, as you said, Kate Middleton had it, but actually there's real people under this, and it's a real condition that people need to know about.
Yeah.
So I know you spoke a little bit about your link with therapy earlier, and you were saying, okay, yeah, you know, from the doctor's perspective, you know, you weren't gonna wait for them to be like, yeah, this is probably a really traumatic time. We can put you on a list that's 3 years long.
Yeah, and it's less about waiting for them. It's more just like, I can get therapy through other means. There are people out there who really do need to be on that list. I'm not one of them.
Yeah. And I know when we were talking kind of in preparation for this and stuff like that, you were talking about the fact that you sacked your therapist.
Yeah, I sacked her off.
And when you told me that, I thought, yes, we need to make sure we talk about this. So you said that you recently sacked your therapist. Tell us a little bit more about it, because, you know, as a therapist myself, I think the power in being able to make that decision is really, really important. So why did you sack your therapist?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I'm choosing to frame it as I sacked her. My girl has no idea. Like, I dip in and out of sessions with her now. So I went through a period of seeing her for, like weekly for maybe 6 or 7 months. And then since 2020, we've just been dipping in and out.
Okay. So this actually sounds like a slow ghost.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay,
it's definitely not a slow ghost. I'm not a slow ghost kind of gal. No.
Okay, fine.
No, I've definitely sacked her.
Okay, fine. You're definitely
she just doesn't know.
But she just don't. All right.
There was a real turning point. So 2 things. The first thing is, okay, maybe this is probably going to go over the heads of a lot of people, but I think I can draw the comparison and some people will get it.
Okay, cool.
So if you ever have building work done, when you enter that contract with your builders, if it's going to be like a big chunk of time, you want to go into it knowing that the builders you start with probably are not going to be the builders you finish with.
Interesting. Okay.
And for me, it's the same with my therapy. You know, she got me to a certain point. I then was like, do you know what? I need a gear change.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get that with you.
Right.
So it's less of like, because sacking her makes it sound like negative and like it's there's like it's malicious. It's not that. It's just an acknowledgement.
But also as well, I don't think, and this is why I really wanted to talk about it, because I don't think it's a negative or malicious. And I think almost the normalization of ending something.
I've let her go.
I've let her go.
Away.
Okay, fine.
Sacking isn't, you know.
Well, I mean, words mean things.
They do. They're powerful. They're powerful.
That's very important. Okay, you let her go.
I let her go.
And I think there is an importance in discussing that can be a very empowering thing to do. And that notion of somebody getting you to a particular point, facilitating you to a place in your journey, and then possibly it being somebody else that you continue with, I think is really important. So when you said, you know, kind of got me to a certain place, what do you think it is that made you decide, okay,
we're done.
Yeah.
So it's almost twofold. Something happened and I felt like I'm going to need to ramp this up. I'm going to need to like go back to therapy weekly, essentially. So I said to my therapist, can I see you in person? Because we'd been seeing each other over Zoom since the pandemic. And she was just like, do you know what? Like, I knew that she just moved house, and she said, you know, to be honest, I'm just not ready. Like, I'm not set up. Like, and she kind of, she gestured, you know, there are boxes everywhere, you know, behind the camera, there are boxes everywhere. And boom, I was just like, nah, bruv,
no,
I can't be.
That fourth wall.
That fourth wall. That
like,
fourth
no, babes.
wall. Those the boundary had been crossed for me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in my personal life, I'm very open and I don't care if you've got boxes everywhere, like whatever.
Yeah.
But there's something about that therapy space.
Yeah.
I do not want to know anything about your life.
Nope.
And for me, like, I'm paying for that privilege. I'm paying for the privilege of talking to a human who is almost taking the form of a mirror, but it's like a magic mirror. Every now and again, they're reflecting something back that they've picked up on, you know? that is a privilege.
And the importance of that blank canvas, as you said.
And the importance of the blank canvas.
Yeah.
And she showed me something about her personal life, and it was a real turn off. And I'm like, nah, I'm done.
Did you get the ick?
I got the ick. Yeah, I got the ick. I totally got. Some people fall in love with their therapist. I got the ick.
Yes.
I got the ick. Definitely got the ick. And I've now got a new therapist, and she is amazing. And what's interesting about her is she's boundaried, but not in an obvious way. So I feel like there are some therapists or just people where their boundaries, it's like there's a coldness, you know?
Yeah.
So like it's taken me a long time to realize that if I meet someone, and especially women, and initially I feel that they're a bit cold, or there's a lack of warmth is maybe a better way to put it. Actually, that could just be boundaries. Right. It doesn't mean they're not a warm person, right?
It just means that what they're currently giving you, or what they're meeting you in that space is possibly, as you said, like a reduction in heat.
Totally.
As opposed
which
to
is fair enough. And I think that women, young girls, you know, I am the mother of a girl. Girls, I believe, or I was conditioned to always give that warmth. You need to be loving, you need to be caring, you need to be warm, you need to be welcoming.
Yeah.
You know, men are not, boys I don't think I don't think they're conditioned in the same way.
Okay.
And I think like the tides are changing a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly trying to be more aware about telling my daughter, you know, think about your personal space. You see when people come and say good morning to my children at the school gate. Hi, morning. Often my kids are just airing them. And I'm not being the parent that's like, say hello. Because my mum always did that to me.
Yeah. And
she wasn't taking into account, I might not like this person's vibe.
I might not like this person.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, my spirit might not tick to them.
Exactly.
So maybe I don't want to say hello
Exactly.
to them.
So, but my mum was probably thinking about showing face, being respectful, you know, making me call everyone auntie. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. And it's not because I'm disrespectful, because I'm rude, but I will not condition my children to be engaging with people that they don't want to engage with. Just because you as a big person have decided to say good morning to my son every morning. He continues to not say good morning to you.
So there's something.
Why do you keep on saying good morning?
He says good morning to everybody else, but there's some reason he doesn't say good morning to you.
Or maybe he doesn't. He doesn't say good morning because he genuinely doesn't really say good morning to everyone else. But what is it about you that you have to continue to say morning, and try and like force my child to say good morning to you when consistently he's airing you, you know? I can't remember why I got into that. Right, because I was saying that my new therapist has these boundaries, but also is warm. And I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from her in terms of the work I do. You know, it's a constant battle. Like, how do I come across as warm and open? But actually, I know that internally I've got some serious boundaries in place, you know? So yeah, I feel really good about letting go of my therapist.
Okay.
And more power to me and more power to everyone. And it's about recognizing when a relationship has run its course.
I think there's something I was talking about in relation to when something has run its course. So very recently, I'm going to make sure I get the right twin. I think it's Tia. Yeah. If it's not Tia, then I'm sorry.
It's Tamara?
But
are we talking about Tia and Tamara?
Okay. Yeah, we are, yeah. Well, basically, one of them has recently divorced from her husband, Corey. And I want to say it's Tia. Because Tamara's the one married to the white man, innit? Can't remember.
Okay.
I think it's Tia. Let's go with her. But basically, she has recently divorced. And she's really going through a lot of stuff online where she's like, my marriage was a achievement. Like, this is not, yes, we're divorcing. And, you know, obviously there's sadness in there as well. But actually, I don't see this as a failure. I don't see this as oh my gosh, we didn't stay together until the end of time. Oh, that's a bad thing. Actually, that was a period in my life. And now I'm into a new period of my life kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
come on, Tia
about
or Tamara.
Yeah, so I think it's Tia. She's really thinking about it as being a kind of a comma or a full, as opposed to a full stop. So like, this happened. All right, cool. Now I'm moving into this new bit.
Yeah.
And da-da-da-da-da.
And sorry.
Yes.
What is the other option? That I stay with someone who's not good for me?
Stay in your thing and struggle.
Because again, society tells me that because we're married, we must be together forever.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. And that's the real sense. There's a lot of that going around, and this need that people feel there's a need for closure. So like, I was talking the other day about, you see those memes and stuff, and it's like, I don't know who needs to hear this.
Oh God, I can't bear it. I literally want to punch you in your face right now because you just said it. I can't bear it.
I don't know who needs to hear this.
Oh, shut up.
But, and it's like, fam,
maybe
just say what you're saying, innit? Just talk. But I think those little memes, like I've been talking a lot this week on Instagram and stuff about closure, about, us feeling like we need the person who traumatized us in some way or was part of our trauma, abuse, upset, distress, whatever, to almost explain why they did it.
Well, good luck, because you're going to be waiting
good luck,
babes,
right? To either explain why they did it or apologize, but apologize how we need them to apologize, not how they're ready to. I think coming up to Christmas as well, a lot of us are gonna be in and around family that maybe we don't really like, or we're gonna be in and around. Do you know what I mean?
I'm triggered.
The people that will say things like, will say to your children, "Come on, sit up straight, use a knife and fork, do this, do that," all the things that we probably had when we were younger, and from a boundaries perspective, so going back to there, from a boundaries perspective and from a trying to seek closure perspective, you may not get it. You may not always have this wonderful ending where everything's wrapped up and tied up in a bow and off you go and all is well.
No.
But it is about, I feel, thinking, like I said, being empowered to end things. I think that is important.
Yeah.
It's really important for people to be like, you know what? I'm not really being treated how I want to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be huge trauma. It could literally be, I'm in a therapeutic relationship with my therapist.
Yeah.
It's not really working for me. So
listen,
I'm going to let them go.
I had it recently in a yoga class. I tried a new yoga class. My man turned up. He was in some band t-shirt. He was giving me like different yoga vibes. He was not giving me the typical yoga vibes. And I thought, okay, I see you. Like you're doing a different thing. Yeah. Okay, I'm interested. And I just cannot tell you how much I did not enjoy this class. My man is like, we're in Downward Dog. My man's talking about how he went to Devon this weekend. You should really go to Devon. Yeah, no, went to Devon this weekend. It's great. And then he's like, okay, and now down into whatever he's saying. And at one point he came to assist me. Okay, fair play. I'm cool with being assisted in yoga. It's fine. He may have even asked permission, at the beginning. I don't remember. Anyway, my man's assisting me. I was in Downward Dog. He's literally like, oh, we've got a slippy one.
Sorry.
because yes, my hands were sweaty and I was slipping a little bit. But do you need to announce it to the
whole
class?
Yoga class needs to know that my hands them are sweating?
And then at one point, the cherry on top of the dead cake was he was assisting some woman in some kind of inversion pose, and he obviously pushed her a little bit too far and she fell, and then she fell on him a little bit, and he was like, oh, did you see that? She jumped at me, and I just thought, do you know what?
You're giving me credit vibes.
You, Daryl, or whatever your name is.
Daryl.
Daryl. Do you know what? Let me
Daryl needs to
lean into what it is I need. And here's a nice resolved ending for me. I won't be coming to your class again.
That's very weird.
Do you know what I mean? But it was again just checking in with myself.
Yeah. And not forcing yourself to stay in uncomfortable situations. Because I think that is what we can do a lot. We can kind of persuade ourselves, oh, maybe it wasn't that, or maybe let me give them one more chance, and I think that's what we need to think about, looking after ourselves more.
I mean, absolutely, and I think it's tied up in self-worth.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he will continue to be a yoga teacher. Yeah. I will continue to practice yoga. Listen, there are people in that class that were all for his stories. Not for me. Not done. For you.
Yeah. So just a couple of, I guess, suggestions if someone's out there looking for a therapist, thinking about having a therapist. Any tips? How did you find your therapist?
Well, I found my therapist through, thankfully, my husband works for Apple. Shout out Apple.
Okay.
Because when it comes
Big up Apple, future sponsorship.
Do you know what I mean? Listen, it's true.
Yes.
Project.
Manifest up this thing. Carry on.
Yeah, and do you know what? They are really great when it comes to like healthcare and stuff. And I'm actually covered on my husband's healthcare.
Yes. Okay.
So that's how I found my therapist.
Okay.
So I mean, that's quite unique, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to be covered on someone's
healthcare.
I mean,
how we are definitely in the United Kingdom, we are moving a lot more towards health insurance and stuff like that.
But there's like the BACP website, and that's, my understanding is, I was about to say any good therapist, but I don't think that's fair.
No, that's not fair. But not good therapists on them sites.
Exactly. But it is a recognized body.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you'd like to think as someone who's looking for therapy that it's a safe place to go and look. And
definitely.
Boy, maybe that's another conversation.
Maybe that's a whole other podcast. But yes,
yeah.
you've got BACP. You've also got Barton, so the Black and Asian Therapist Network.
Okay.
You've got the HCPC, which is the Healthcare's Professions Council. But what I just usually say to people is ask questions. So like almost feel like you're interviewing, like if you've got children, you might be interviewing a babysitter or a nanny or an au pair or whatever. You're putting your prized possession. If you were getting building work done, you'd check references. You'd make sure that it was like the person was able to look after that prized possession, whether that be your house, your children, your car, your whatever.
Yeah.
So I usually say there's exactly the same thing in relation to searching for a therapist.
Yeah.
Interview. Ask them questions. If you're going in there with some kind of trauma or something like that, ask them, have you worked before with people who have experienced blah, blah, blah. You're not telling them all your business one time, but giving them a flavor of this is what I'm going to be thinking about.
Yeah.
And if I'm a very big one for spirit, if your spirit don't take them,
listen.
don't
It's no joke.
go back.
Yeah, don't.
Because that spirit, energy,
your gut,
intuition,
gut,
gut,
all of that, it's there for a reason.
Really has to be listened to.
And like my only other piece of advice would be like, stop being in other people's lives and get into your own life.
Yes.
Be curious about yourself. Don't be curious about why Dawn is doing whatever she's doing on Instagram and all of that. Like, get curious about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, as you said, a lot of people are like, running is my therapy, cooking is my therapy, yoga is my therapy.
And they can all be forms of therapy.
They can all be forms of self-care and looking after yourself. But I think what you said there was about kind of being curious about yourself.
Yeah.
And actually I ask people this question and sometimes it backfires. But sometimes I say to people, would you leave the house without looking in the mirror?
No.
And sometimes it backfires because some people say, yeah, I do that all the time.
I wouldn't.
Well, right. So this is what I'm saying. For me, it's like usually before you've left the house, yes, you've put on the outfit, you've done whatever, but you do, even if it's just a quick, just to check that the hat is on straight or that the trouser or the sock or the shoe is...
Listen, sometimes I'm there rushing my kids out the door. They're by the front door. I'm running upstairs to check my outfit out.
Exactly.
All I'm doing is a school run. No tea, no shade.
So it's not even a vain thing. It's actually a mirror. And as you were talking about before in relation to a mirror, a therapeutic process is supposed to be able to hold up that mirror for you and say, I'm in relationship with you and I'm facilitating a process of you learning more about yourself. Therapy is not just for something happened to me, something went wrong, blah, blah, blah.
No.
It's about, as you said, being more curious about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, all right. Well, thank you so much. So far, we've learned a lot about you. We've heard a bit about your journey. So we're going to move on to the real deal dilemma. I'm going to read it out. We need a name. So she's called herself Embarrassed in Essex. But let's give her a name. What
Tanya.
name? Tanya. All right, cool. And she got a brethren. Who identifies as a woman. So give her a name.
Tanya and Alicia.
Alicia. All right, cool. So, dear Real Deal team, I have a great friend, we'll call her Alicia, in her 30s who has been single for the past few years and would really like to find a boyfriend. She is pretty, smart, and sociable. But I think she's being held back by her lack of dress sense. She rarely wears the right clothes for the right occasion. And if she does, she always manages to include one item that just ruins the whole look. She is a petite woman, but always wears really baggy clothes or goes completely the other end of the extreme and wears a very tight boob tube, boy. I have not heard that term in a minute. A very tight boob tube with very tight figure-hugging shorts with knee-high boots. It's like there's no medium, there's no in-between. I would really like to help her improve her appearance, but I'm not sure if I can talk to her about this without hurting her feelings and damaging our friendship. Do you have any advice, Tanya? So, before we go into our thoughts, people in the comments, write directly in the comments box below, what would you tell Tanya? Would you not help Alicia? What would you do? But for a start, Quincy, any thoughts?
The first thing I would tell Tanya is, Tanya, you can look me up at youintheroom.co.uk.
Yes.
I think you might need some coaching.
Okay.
Because everything... Alicia, she's not even on my radar right now.
Right. We're dealing solely with Tanya and the fact that Tanya feels it's okay to suggest some of these things that's actually in the...
And also, this is all through Tanya's gaze.
True.
This is all through, what does really baggy in Tanya's mind mean?
It's true. Because I love an oversized coat.
Exactly, because...
What's really baggy?
What is really baggy?
True.
Because, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not... Tanya... there's like me personally who has some thoughts, and then there's me in a coaching space that have some thoughts, and the two don't really mix.
Let's think about because we're going to talk about the coaching, but let's think about the you personally.
Tanya
and then
needs to just chill the fuck out.
That's what Tanya needs to do.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Tanya needs to calm her blood clot hype. Seriously, she needs to calm her hype.
So what do you think it is that is making Tanya hype?
I think she's being rude.
Yeah.
She's being judgmental and she's being rude. Yeah. And also, she's there, she's talking about Alicia, is Tanya talking about herself? That's what I want to know.
Well, Tanya says that Alicia really wants a boyfriend.
Okay,
let's assume that this is the truth. Let's assume that's the truth because...
How do we know that how do we know that that's what Alicia really...
Well, let's go by supposedly what she's saying she wants. So let's imagine Alicia does want a man.
Okay.
Cool. Then, she's
so what
smart,
Tanya's
she's pretty,
saying...
she's sociable, da-da-da-da-da-da. Tanya seems to think
that Alicia has to change her whole...
is being held back
by herself.
By her lack of dress sense. Apparently,
dress
she
sense
goes
is
from
a very
one subjective
thing.
Yeah,
it's a very subjective thing, and that's how Alicia's choosing to express herself.
Okay, I think the question I have is in the last paragraph. I think she kind of gets to it where she says, I'd really like to help her improve her appearance, but I'm not sure if I can talk to her about this without hurting her feelings. And I think that's what we need to focus on.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is...
You're like, Quincy, don't get caught up in the hype.
No, because I feel Tanya is hyping.
No, but yeah, I hear you. So that's interesting that she would end it with that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say these things without hurting her feelings. So the fact that Tanya... is even thinking in that way.
Means it's bad mind.
Exactly.
So, the fact that it's bad mind and the fact that it might damage your friendship, what do you do? That's my thing.
Yeah, totally. And what is it you're really trying to say? What are you
okay, let me ask you a question. Do you think in the world there is any such thing as bad dress sense?
That's a very good question.
Because technically, if everything is subjective, that means there's no bad.
It's a bit like saying everyone can sing, isn't it?
I mean, there's that too. For example, there's a lot of jokes about Balenciaga fashion shows and people just looking mash up
with the banana
some
foot
kind of kind of bag over their head.
Yeah.
Now, if you're walking down Camden High Street with a black bag over your head and you're looking a bit wayward,
like you're about to die, don't ever do that, guys.
But you see, but then what if Alicia's doing black bag chic?
I think like,
that could be a possibility. This could be
listen,
what you're
fashion
talking about.
is in the eye of the beholder, or beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like, you know, I actually don't know that there is any such thing as bad dress sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's...
What about Yeezys?
What about Yeezys?
I'm joking. Anyway, carry on. Right. In terms of bad, you don't think there's anything such as bad dress sense?
I think there's like a difference between, like you were saying, people who look in the mirror before they leave the house and people who do not. So what I would like to know is Alicia consciously throwing these looks together?
And calling them looks. And feeling
or even just an outfit. You know, I've put this outfit together and, you know, I back myself.
Yeah.
Or is she just throwing things together, and does she need a bit of guidance?
Yes.
That has to come from her.
And also, I think there is something about, you know, as you say, you know, she describes her as she's a petite woman. She's wearing baggy clothes one day. She's wearing.
So you're giving me Jada Pinkett Smith in the 90s. It's a good look.
She's giving me everything. But I wonder if there's also something. I'm going to take it back a couple of emotional steps in relation to if we take word for word what Tanya is saying, if she is looking for a boyfriend and feels as though she is not getting what she wants, and if she actually wants the support, like you said, from a looks, from an outfits perspective, I think that's something that needs to be ascertained. Like, we need to actually find out, does Alicia have an issue in terms of, does she feel like she wants support?
Yeah.
If she feels like she wants support, then I feel like, okay, cool, you can be her brethren, you can go do
shopping.
what you want to do, go shopping, But I think what the issue is that I feel like Tanya is the one who's embarrassed, and I feel like Tanya is the one who don't want to walk road with Alicia.
Or maybe Tanya's jealous. We don't know.
I mean, that too. But I do feel that the fact that she's asking, you know, I want to bring this up, but I don't want to hurt her feelings. I don't want to damage the friendship. I feel like it's about just mentioning to her. I wonder, like, do you think there's anything getting in your way in relation to you finding a partner? If Alicia brings up that she thinks, boy, what I'm wearing, maybe. Or I don't think she'll say could be the way I'm dressing, but I think, okay, so for example, I know for a fact when I was younger, okay, I'm in all black today, but I know for a fact that when I was younger, I hid from colour a lot. Because in my head, I was very much like colour, you know, I was very much like dark-skinned girls shouldn't wear bright colours. I lost my mind. I know that's not the case.
God.
But when I was younger, I was very much like, you know, staying all black. Obviously, I also thought as well, like, to hide my body, baggy clothes. You know, I'm short. I'm like, I don't, you know, maybe hide the belly, hide the fat, hide the big thighs, hide the this, hide the that. Let me wear dark clothes. Let me just not be seen, kind of thing. So I do think there is something in.
But how old were you?
I probably felt that till I was at least 20 something.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But that was my own kind of relationship with being seen, men, Yeah. But just, I still think that's something that checking in with your brethren about how do you feel about this? How do you, you know, what do you think is getting in the way? I think is an important thing to do. But if the brethren don't bring up nothing to do with how she's dressing, you need to shut your mouth.
You do. You really do.
You need to hold your corner and you need to say nothing.
And also just... And this is the thing, I feel like the conversation between my opinion on the question cannot progress because I need to know, like, is this coming, you know, does Alicia feel that this, because if Alicia feels this is something, then that's a different conversation. But if this is purely coming from Tanya, it's like, you know, what is your view on the world then and men? And do you know what I mean? And the way you have to put yourself into all these different positions to suit men, you know?
It
to
is
conform and all
giving,
of that.
It is definitely giving, well, you need to wear a certain thing in order to attract a man.
I am
and
not
that's the issue.
Here for that.
No.
Like, listen, when I married, I would never have entertained my husband, let alone married him, if he wasn't the kind of guy where I can shave my head and grow my hair, my armpits, or I can have long curly hair and shave my armpits, and he's going to love me no matter what. He's going to be into me no matter what. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the energy that we should be projecting.
Yeah. True.
I think, anyway.
I feel like that's the energy we should be projecting, but I think, no, sorry, not even a but, full stop. And I'm just aware that we are unfortunately in a society in which that kind of love is so hard to get.
But that's
and
the
so
only love you should be accepting.
And this is what I mean, and that's what I mean. I think there's a sense of It's about making sure that you can be you to your fullest.
That's it. Authenticity.
But I'm going to be controversial.
Go for it.
And I'm going to also say, though, that if I'm constantly, for example, if I'm constantly walking down the road in a black bin bag, how much play am I going to get?
That's mad, though. Who's walking down the road in a black bin bag?
Them Balenciaga girl, them are walking down the road in a bin bag.
And guess what? Yeah. They're getting the man that they need.
True.
They're getting the man
they're getting the man that they need.
Listen, they're getting the man that they want and they need.
It's true. It's true. All right. So I would like you to look direct to camera and I want you to tell Tanya what she needs to do.
God, I don't even feel like I can give Tanya eye contact.
Or we'll give her a bullet point. What's one thing Tanya needs to do?
Tanya, you need to figure out how much of this is coming from you and how much of this is coming from your friend. Mm-hmm. And that is the best place to start. And if you ensure that you get that right, you shouldn't be in a position where you are at risk of hurting your friend's feelings. Because ultimately, at the heart of what you said, it sounds like you do not want to offend your friend. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure, like, how much of this is me and how much of this is her.
I love this. And Tanya, if she says the clothes aren't an issue, mind your business.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. All right, cool. People, if you have a real deal dilemma that you want us to talk about, make sure you email us realdealshow100@gmail.com or send us a DM at realdealpod or holler at me directly at rastabarbie84. See, we're just helping the people then.
I know.
This is what we're doing on a weekly.
Doing the important work.
The important, that important
really important work.
Speaking of important work, I'm aware that from, you spoke about, at you in the room, from a transformational life coaching perspective. If it was the coaching side giving Tanya advice, or actually no, let's imagine Alicia's in your coaching room. Yeah? Tell us a little bit, maybe, would the answer have been different? Would have you been looking at that differently?
Oh, God, the answer would have been completely different.
Very different.
Completely different.
And tell us a little bit about that and how you got onto that journey.
Yeah, no, it would have been completely different because I wouldn't have brought so much of myself and my feelings to it.
Yeah. We wouldn't have told her to mind her
No.
business.
No, definitely not. I'm sure there are coaches out there that will do that for you.
And I'm sure there's therapists that would, but no.
Yeah, that's not how I operate.
Yeah.
If I had Alicia in front of me, so as a coach, it's very exploratory. Mm-hmm. It's all about exploring. It's all about, let's say Alicia comes to me and she's like, I want to find a man, I want a man. And I'd be hearing what she's saying and reacting to that and honoring that. But I would also be wondering what's underneath that, So I guess I see my coaching space as it's not therapy. And for me, like, I really was struggling with, like, what is the difference between coaching and therapy then? As someone who is in therapy, who loves therapy, who rates therapists, like, what is the difference? And I think it's different for every coach and every therapist, right? But for me, in my space, the difference is that I will not unpack your childhood or unpack your past in the same way that I feel a therapist will, and I feel a therapist is qualified to do so. So we may visit something to do with your childhood because it's relevant to what you're talking to me about today, but we're going to quickly visit and come right back to the present day. Right. It's also, there's an element of it's goal orientated. So often it's like, so what are your goals? What are your takeaways? And there's a level of accountability. And I think that's what people find useful, because when they say, and it can be anything from, I want to start taking my vitamins every day, something that seems so small, but I certainly know that I feel really shit about the fact that I haven't been taking my vitamins, and it's tied up in self-worth, self-care. So when my client comes to me next week, when their goal from last week was to take their vitamins, I'm saying to them, so actually, to be fair, I'm not actually bringing it up, but they know and I know that was their goal from last week. Yeah. And I leave it to them. If they want to bring it up, they can bring it up. Like, every session is like a blank slate. Okay. I'm not going to drag things from the last session. It is for you to bring whatever you want to bring. Okay. So yeah, with Alicia, we'd get curious. I would offer her the space to get curious, I often describe the space that I hold for people as, it's like being in a white room, or being in a room where there's this big white wall in front of you, and there are paints, and there's all types of mediums, you know, like paint and scissors and material and glue, and I'm just offering you a space to get creative, and you can throw what you want at that wall. And at first it might be like, oh God, I don't know whether I'm like doing a collage vibe. Am I painting? Am I getting a pencil out? I don't know, but I'm going to try it all. And then slowly you start maybe leaning towards one medium, and all of a sudden, like, a picture starts to become clearer.
Okay.
So yeah, very, very exploratory.
Right. And what kind of led you towards transformational life coaching?
So I actually trained to be a doula.
Okay.
Which is
tell the people then what that is in case they don't know.
Yeah, so it's someone who supports people through pregnancy and labor. And I did that and thought that I really wanted to support people through labor. And actually, I think what I really wanted was another baby. And I came to realize that when I was putting my business together, I came to realize that actually I'm loving the aspect of the doula work where it's like supporting people to have the experience of pregnancy and labor that they want, you know, like having a birthing plan, having a postnatal plan, holding like medical staff accountable, like not just letting them buoy you off and say like, no, like you have to have a C-section when that's not really what you want to do. And you know, but then I was also like, but actually I want to do that for the partner in the room as well, not just the birthing person. And actually I'd love to do that for people who are not actually pregnant. And I'd love to do that for people who can never get pregnant. And I'd love to do that for people who are in their 60s and have had their kids. And I was like, oh shit, I want to be a coach, don't I? It's not a doula, you know, it's more than that. Yeah. So I did a course in transformational life coaching, and it was amazing. And so much of the stuff that I learned through the doula training was really relevant. It was all transferable. And yeah, that led me to set up You in the Room, which is basically, well, it's kind of exactly what it says on the tin. It's all about you being in the room.
And where can we find you? So like websites, social media platforms, etc.
So my website is youintheroom.co.uk.
Okay.
Instagram, I think I'm at You in the Room.
I love it. Well, I could tell you're actually at you_in_the_room.
Those extra underscores. So there we go.
Underscores, because someone probably did teeth out the ting before you.
Exactly.
What you were.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I really love it. And just like anyone who has their own business, the thing that I struggle most with is marketing myself. Yeah. Because I just want to be doing the work. That's all I want to be doing is the work. And, you know, when I'm spending time having to think about how to find people to do the work with, it's a bit like, you know, this is long because I want to be doing the work, you know? Yeah. But such is life.
So it go. And do you think that some of that transformational life coaching stuff, is that what, because I know we were talking before about you starting to do some mentoring in prisons.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So is that kind of an organic kind of route to that?
Yeah. So I just did some training with a charity called Trailblazers.
Okay.
And they offer mentoring in men's prisons. And I've just passed all the kind of the training and the interviewing and the vetting process. And I went to visit Brixton Prison last Tuesday. And I start volunteering there as soon as my like checks are done, DBS check and all of that. And I think it's all part and parcel. You know, it's all a similar family of work. And I've always been very interested in working in prisons. I have to say, having actually gone into one now, it's very different to any naivety has been stripped away.
It's not prisoner cell blockage.
Yeah.
It's not
I don't even know what that is, but yeah.
You don't know what, so now I'm showing my age. that show was a vibe. What's the other prison show?
Prison Break?
Prison Break. There's another prison show, but it's gone. Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black.
Sorry, yeah.
God, I love that.
Show was
mate.
life. When it done,
I cried.
I cried.
Oh my God.
But yes. So it's not that. And there is a real serious side to it, and there's a serious, and as you say, like from a mentoring perspective or from a coaching perspective. I worked for a good couple of years doing like theatre in prisons and working with a lot of young women, a lot of like in young offenders institutions and stuff like that. It's a real place. Like you walk in and like, I know you said, obviously you're going to be doing more, but walking in and almost like the air is just stale.
Mate, it's mad.
Like it's a vacuum.
It's mad. Yeah. And there are lots of aspects to it that were like, whoa, sensory overload. Yeah. Even the smallest thing, like you walk in, your phone is taken away from you. Mm-hmm. When in life are you awake and your phone isn't on your person? Mm-hmm. Even just little things like that, which is just, it adds to the sensory overload. But for me, one of the things that really struck me was I walked into this place and I was just like, I know you lot, I came up with you lot. I used to hang around with you lot. There was just this kind of, I recognized every single person on that wing, and I didn't know any of them, but there was something about them from, growing up in Harlesden and hanging around when I, was living with my mum in Fulham and hanging around on Roehampton Estate. And like, I used to hang around in estates with this lot. And it's just, I've always been very conscious that so much of life is luck, whether the system pick you up or not, in terms of like social services, who you're born to, what country you're born in, so much of it is luck. And I'm hoping that that's what's going to mean that I'm in a good position to mentor in Brixton Prison, because already I am like, irrespective of what your crime is, like we're all one decision away from our life changing, ultimately. I always say like, I can't drive, and thank God I can't, because I'm definitely notorious for leaning over my husband and beeping the horn because I get vexed when people, do certain things. And it's very easy for those kind of situations to just escalate. Yep. And I guess I'm not looking down at these guys. I'm like, listen, I look at everything I have and I'm lucky, and I'm lucky, essentially.
So I feel like it's really important to just think about how oppression, systemic racism, and like you said, luck, definitely, but there are also all these different things that are against so many people that end up in the system. And I think, we talk about, from, what the government's currently doing in relation to homelessness, those type of things. We are one step away. How many of us from a paychecks perspective are 1, 2, 3 paychecks away from homelessness, not being able to heat our homes, not being able to eat, feed our children, pay for childcare, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
So I think again, like you say, from a mentoring perspective, going into those spaces and seeing the work that you can do within those spaces, I think is a really.
But it's mad, because when I went to visit on Tuesday, we were on Wing B, which is like the induction wing. And then basically Wing A is for like the troublemakers, as in nothing to do with your crime outside of prison, but to do with your behaviour within prison. Okay. And then Wing...
So they almost label them that.
Mate, like, days. Fully labelled. And listen, if you're on Wing A, so Wing A is like, for want of a better term, like the Aggie ones, right? The ones who are most likely to get into conflict,
Are we allowed to say this?
What Aggie?
No. She said... What? No, as in like, are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, okay, why not?
I'm looking out for you. Bun Babylon, I'm looking out for you, mate.
It's fine.
Carry on.
I mean, I'm saying it's fine. What are they going to do?
It's not my job.
It is what it is.
It's not my mentoring role. I just don't want you to get into trouble, babes.
Listen, I haven't been told that I'm not allowed to say this.
Amen.
This is just facts, right?
Carry on.
This is just facts. So Wing A, I mean, they have separate wings for this reason.
Yes.
So Wing A is for the troublemakers. Anyone on Wing A is not allowed to be in education. You're not allowed to work. So it's like, but hold on a minute.
But if you're actually... If you're acting out and communicating in such a way that you are making trouble, inverted commas, then would you not want those people to be in some kind of daily activity.
And this is the system.
Yeah.
This is the system.
And as we know, the system is not, you know, we talk about prison reform, it's not a thing.
No, it's not
a thing. We talk about therapy, it's not a thing. We talk about accessing support for actual reform and change. But all the prison system does is churn people out so that when you come back out, you then can't manage, and then a lot of the time you end up going back into
which is this charity's whole goal is to stop reoffending, right?
Okay.
Or to try and, I mean, to stop reoffending is a massive statement.
Huge,
but to support people to not reoffend.
Yeah.
And we were on one of the wings, and this young guy came over and spoke to the project manager at Brixton, and like I could feel his anxiety, like it was palpable, right? And he's like, miss, like, my housing's not sorted and I'm done sending the emails and I've spoken to so-and-so and they're not doing anything and I'm starting to get pissed off. And, you know, I could really feel his anxiety. And it's interesting because I read it as anxiety. Other people may have read it as aggression.
Exactly.
You know
Yeah, no, 100%.
But it was pure anxiety, right?
Course.
Anyway, so we walk off and I say to my project manager, like, I could really feel his fear, you know? And I'm like, when's he being released? And she's like, tomorrow.
Exactly.
And my man has no housing.
And this is what we say. So you're coming out of an institution into a world that doesn't contain you, doesn't support you. As you said, nowhere to live, nowhere to this, nowhere to that. And then you're confused as to why that person may then go and commit a crime in order to live.
Do you know it costs more money to send someone to prison than it does to send them to Eton? I'm pretty sure that is a fact. I'm pretty sure.
I'll fact check.
Fact check that, please. But
no, what you're doing is amazing work. Loving to see that, you know, you're going into prisons, you're continuing with the mentoring, you're doing the transformational life coaching. People can find you at you_in_the_. That's a bugger underscore.
Mate, rude. I didn't want them underscores.
We'll type it at the bottom, don't worry. People will see it scroll across the bottom of the screen.
Nice. Thank you.
And
oh my God, like here.
It's going to scroll.
I
don't know. It might be
I love it. Like
here,
it's like a train.
Here, just
love that.
We'll make it work. And then also in terms of the blog at quincerella.wordpress.com, we'll make that
yes.
at the bottom of the thing as well. And yeah, if there's anything that you want people to take from what we've spoken about today, so obviously we've spoken about a lot, but if there was maybe one takeaway or one theme or something that you'd want maybe people to go away from listening and watching this with, what might that be?
The thing that I just keep on coming back to is that track by Goldie Mother, and the fact that that one song is a whole hour, you know, and just the fact that he did it for himself.
Yep.
And that for me is like true authenticity. Not only did he do it for himself, but he put it out there as well because. And that's the gift, right? Like that's, you know, we can all have those doubts. God, does it make me vain if I do this, or should I do that? And, you know, and it kind of ties into that stupid thing of, I don't know who needs to hear this, but, you know, stop leaning into, I don't know who needs to hear this, and just start saying things because you want to say them.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can recognize that may touch some people, but let's be real. Like, first and foremost, you're doing it for yourself. When I write, first and foremost, I'm writing for myself, and I still choose to put it out there. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So I guess I would want people to hopefully take something from that.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for coming in today. Everybody, this has been The Real Deal Show. You can follow us at Real Deal Pod on Instagram and also at RastaBarbie84. If you want to send us any of your dilemmas, you can email realdealshow100@gmail.com. Hopefully something might go chuku across the bottom of the screen for you lot to see that as well. Thank you again to Karibe Kulture for all the production, and we will see you again next week.